Dawn settled like brushed copper across the city of Riverstead as commuters thronged the tram lines, headphones cocooning them in private soundscapes. Inside the oak-paneled council chamber, a quarrel simmered about zoning a new park on reclaimed industrial ground. Half the delegates championed the plan as environmental renaissance, half condemned it as fiscal folly. Into this tinderbox walked Marcus Lynn, the freshly appointed city liaison, a man known less for thunderous speeches than for an uncanny knack of drawing warring factions toward common daylight. He had studied community disputes for years, convinced that real progress begins not with who shouts loudest, but with who listens deepest. As he tightened his tie that morning, Marcus repeated a mantra inherited from his grandfather: "Seek to see as others see, or see no peace at all." The first impulse for many leaders would have been to pound the gavel, list statistics, and bulldoze dissent. Marcus chose an opposite route. He invited every delegate, contractor, and resident to a series of informal listening dinners held in a modest riverside hall smelling faintly of cedar and bread. No charts, no microphones, only long tables, mismatched crockery, and handwritten place cards. By removing podiums, he stripped away performance and restored humanity. Skeptics muttered, "What's supper got to do with city planning?" Yet within an hour of the first gathering, neighbors who had flung accusations in press columns found themselves trading soup recipes while recounting why the river's health mattered to their grandparents. Marcus knew he was not gathering data. He was cultivating recognition of each other's stories, the soft soil where durable agreements take root. During those evenings, Marcus seldom spoke more than a few questions. "Tell me why this land feels sacred to you," or, "If tomorrow your child walked this riverbank, what would you hope they felt?" People unlatched narratives they had guarded like heirlooms: a fisherman's memory of casting lines beside his late father, a shopkeeper's fear of losing parking for her struggling bakery. Arguments about cost or square footage momentarily dissolved into textures of longing, identity, and survival. Marcus did not promise immediate answers. He simply bore witness. And as voices circled the table, a surprising phenomenon unfurled. Participants began paraphrasing each other's worries before reiterating their own. Empathy, that rarest civic currency, was minting itself quietly beneath the flicker of candlelight. Weeks later, Marcus orchestrated guided walks along the contested land. Delegates trudged the cracked concrete slabs where factory whistles once shrieked. They lingered where willows now threaded fragile green through rubble. Standing under a winter sky, Marcus asked, "Can you picture what a child's laughter would sound like here?" Silence answered, heavier than debate. Even the staunchest opponents admitted, "I've never stood here outside a map grid." Physical presence collapsed abstraction, translating budget line item to neighborhood heartbeat. Marcus's deliberate pacing, the refusal to sprint into arguments, was engineering a slow recalibration of perception. Before he uttered a single persuasive claim, he had invited people to occupy the same frame of reference. Some critics accused Marcus of indulgent delay. "While you break bread, deadlines slip," a councilman barked. Marcus replied calmly, "A decision birthed in misunderstanding breeds litigation. A decision birthed in comprehension breeds loyalty." History vindicated him. Communities that bypassed empathy often returned months later with protests, lawsuits, and bitterness. By contrast, Riverstead's painstaking dialogues were so in legitimacy, an intangible yet invaluable asset. Marcus believed the spine of democracy is not victory, but voluntary cohesion, and cohesion demands more patience than rhetoric. When formal hearings resumed, the tone had palpably shifted. Speakers began prefacing remarks with acknowledgments. "I understand the fiscal caution Councillor Ray has raised," or "I share Miss Dalton's memory of the river's industrial heritage." These were not perfunctory courtesies, but genuine bridges. Marcus noted in his journal, "Understanding has become the air in this chamber. Arguments now swim in oxygen, not acid." By erecting comprehension before contention, adversaries shed caricatures and discovered shared custodianship of the same civic soul. Marcus's technique drew on deeper psychology. Neuroscience reveals that when individuals feel heard, their amygdala, our alarm bell, quiets, opening neural gates for rational deliberation. When ignored, Defensiveness clamps like a vice, regardless of evidence. Marcus's bridge building was less moral sermon than biological pragmatism. He was unarming minds, preparing terrain for facts to flourish. Long after PowerPoints fade, the memory of "they listened to me" lingers, magnetizing cooperation.
Beyond civic halls, the principle radiates universally. In families, lovers quarrel less when they articulate each other's fears before asserting their own. In corporations, mergers stumble when leaders neglect to honor legacy cultures. In classrooms, discipline transforms when teachers invite students to narrate frustration instead of dictating silence. Marcus often quoted, "An enemy is merely someone whose story you haven't heard." By saturating Riverstead in story hearing, he was converting strangers into stakeholders. A pivotal moment arrived when the Budget Committee unveiled unavoidable cost overruns. Gasps ricocheted until Marcus proposed a shared sacrifice charter, inviting ideas for phased development rather than blunt cancellation. Because participants already trusted each other's motives, concessions blossomed organically. Local carpenters offered discounted labor, residents pledged volunteer landscaping hours, even skeptical shopkeepers vowed promotional campaigns for Park Day. Understanding had morphed into stewardship. Without any grandstand victory, consensus glimmered like dawn on rippling water. Months later, groundbreaking commenced amid banners painted by schoolchildren. Former adversaries posed for photos, laughing at how fiercely they had once clung to narrow views. One delegate confessed to Marcus, "If you'd confronted me head-on last year, I'd have fought you to the bitter end. You listened me into partnership." That remark crystallized Marcus's credo: influence not by demolition of opposition, but by patient weaving of relational fibers until the rope can bear weight. Riverstead Park flourished into a green artery, playgrounds humming, herons stalking shallows, evening joggers tracing loops around shimmering ponds. Bronze plaques by the entrance read, "Born of dialogue, sustained by understanding." Tourists assumed it a catchy motto. Locals knew it was biography. Every bench and path testified that the most durable civic monuments are not forged from asphalt, but from shared perspective. Leadership Institutes later invited Marcus to recount Riverstead's saga. He resisted tidy formulas, insisting bridge building is less strategy, more posture, curiosity over certainty, humility over haste. He urged executives to trade memos for meals, analysts for anecdotes, spreadsheets for sidewalks. Before drafting solutions, inhabit each viewpoint until you can argue it as your own. He challenged. Applause followed, but Marcus reminded them that applause changes little unless minds practice patient seeing. In private reflections, Marcus admitted the hardest discipline was ego surrender. To understand another, I must momentarily decenter self. That feels like yielding, but yields treasure. He chronicled failures too. Occasions he rushed, wielded facts prematurely, triggered backlash. These humbling episodes reinforced that comprehension is fragile. Once trampled, it demands arduous rebuilding. Yet he clung to faith that every human yearns fundamentally to be known, even behind bluster or suspicion. Decades on, Riverstead's children skate under willows, unaware of the quarrels their parents once waged. History remembers not the accusations flung, but the patience cultivated. Scholars cite Marcus's bridge before argument doctrine as exemplar of participatory governance. Retired now, Marcus strolls the park, hearing in each bird call an echo of countless evenings spent listening instead of lecturing. "Silence built this playground," he whispers, smiling at toddlers chasing geese. The lesson transcends municipalities. Wherever humans collide, factory floors, marriage tables, boardrooms, the surest route to resolution is detour through recognition. Build bridges first. Arguments will either dissolve or cross them unscathed. To wage persuasion before comprehension is to erect castles on fog, but to sow empathy before evidence is to carve bedrock where dialogue endures. Marcus Lynn's saga teaches that the quiet art of understanding outlasts triumphal speeches, turning discord into legacy. In the roar of modern discourse, this principle rings as a bell. Slow down, walk the riverbank, and hear the heartbeat on the other side.